newsrooms in Eugene, Roseburg, and Coos Bay. KVAL News at noon starts now.
Well, first at noon, the Tsunami Advisory now officially lifted here along the Oregon coastline. This, of course, follows that massive earthquake that happened off the coast of Russia just yesterday afternoon. Thank you for joining us here for KVAL News at noon. I'm John Mayer.
And I'm Briana Chavez. Now, KVAL's Zach Brule speaks with residents along the Oregon coastline in Florence about their reactions to yesterday's advisory and how they worked.
We're standing along the Oregon coast today where on Tuesday night, tsunami watches were issued across much of the Washington, Oregon, and California coast as a result of an earthquake that occurred off the eastern shores of Russia earlier on Tuesday. Now, the Oregon Department of Emergency Management still suggests to use caution if you live in or are headed to the coast anytime this week, really, because for the next 15 to 20 hours beyond those initial hits, the waves could still continue to roll in. And beyond that, there are shifting tides, there are rip currents, and possible debris under the surface of the water that could have moved as a result of those waves rolling in since last night and beyond. Now, I spoke with folks as they started their day here in Florence, some visitors, some residents who have been through this sort of situation before, and for the most part, they say there was some caution on Tuesday night, but no panic.
It was way over there, and they say maybe 1 to 2 foot swells. I went down to the beach this morning, and there wasn't any noticeable wave here. But they had a few small ones in Hawaii, but I think we're too far away.
The interesting thing is we're here fishing, and there's the word out is there's going to be strong currents today. And so being cautious, more so than an earthquake or a tsunami, I'm not going to go out in the water today.
So for the most part, things here along the Oregon coast are back to business as usual. We'll continue to follow the advice of the Oregon Department of Emergency Management, and we suggest you do the same as we move further away from the tsunami advisory. Stick with us here as we'll continue to provide you updates on air and on our social media and on our website as we continue, like I said, to move away from this tsunami watch and tsunami advisory.
And of course, this was significant. The largest recorded earthquake in more than a decade across the globe. Focus in Oregon was on the potential tsunami waves, though in the event of an earthquake close at home, it's also a good time to remember that shake alert early warning system. We reported just last year that shake alert received a big update. It was an effort to improve accuracy and lead time when it comes to earthquake alerts here in our region. Update incorporating GPS technology, giving folks just a few extra seconds of warning in an effort to get that chance to drop for cover or move to a safe zone. Ultimately, warning times, though, from the system vary depending on your distance from the quake. Closer to the epicenter, there's actually a blind zone. No warning really possible, but further from the epicenter, you get some more warning. That message would then be pushed through an amber alert, which would also warn of earthquake consequences, things like tsunamis. And we also spoke with one of the lead researchers who was working on Shake Alert to find out exactly why this most recent update was so important to the system.
The reason that that's a big deal is because traditional seismic stations have a hard time with really big earthquakes. And so if an earthquake gets to about magnitude 8, and definitely if it gets to magnitude 9, it becomes really challenging for earthquake early warning systems that rely on traditional seismic stations to do a good job.
Again, that update went into place just last year, though we have extensive coverage of the entire Shake Alert system. You remember that first went into service back in 2021. All of that available up on our website. Of course, you can find it there at kval.com. Meanwhile, over on the coast in Coos Bay, our reporter Dan Kelly, he spoke with the emergency manager for Coos County regarding that tsunami watch that was issued on the coast yesterday afternoon. And he said it was simply best to stay away from low-lying areas, and that really is the idea that we've heard all throughout this event. U.S. Coast Guard, they were also preparing, trying to make sure they were ready in case any action needed to be taken. And I remember the last time that there was a damaging tsunami that hit Oregon, that was all the way back in 2011. That was an earthquake at 9 magnitude and actually 9.2 magnitude that happened near Japan that led to the Fukushima nuclear disaster. According to the Oregon Department of Emergency Management, the tsunami that resulted, that led to severe damage here in Oregon, even contributing to the deaths of 4 people. on the Oregon coast. Now, for those that were in the advisory area, of course, the idea here was that those impacts would last for possibly hours after the initial wave. And even at this point, with the advisory being lifted, likely still a chance they might still see some issues when it comes to beach hazards moving forward. Some debris still out there as well. So just make sure you're staying safe here moving forward. Even with that advisory officially being lifted, we are still looking at all the aftermath of the waves that were. Now, of course, with all of this that happened out there, it's good to understand exactly what went on. How did we get from yesterday's earthquake over in Russia to tsunami warnings here on the Oregon coast?
I think a lot of people are asking, well, the earthquake was all the way in Russia. Why are we on the Oregon coast, completely across the Pacific, seeing tsunami watches, warnings, advisories being issued? And quite frankly, it's all on how those waves move through the ocean. And really, to give you guys a perfect explanation of how this works, we've got a little explainer here for you guys. So first, we see the earthquake between those two fault lines. So we get the earthquake going, and then we start to see a little bit more so of that push for the water moving a little bit up along the surface of the seawater. Again, the push, and as it moves a little closer to the shoreline, then the wave builds, and when that wave builds and starts to move back out, well, it continues to push its way across the ocean. And yes, we've been throwing a lot of words at you guys: watch, advisory, and warning. I think the best way to really know what the differences in these alert systems is think about it as an evacuation level, right? We're in fire season. Level 1 meaning be ready, level 2 be set, and level 3 go now. So a watch is that level 1. We've got the perfect conditions. You want to keep an eye on those conditions. Otherwise, it could increase that threat, and that's where we see the advisory level then being issued for some areas. And well, once that threat is increased and you need to take action, that's where we see warnings being issued. Of course, though, now that we've seen it kind of being lifted for majority of the coastline, it's still going to see a little bit more so of those impacts across the board, including smaller creeks and streams, a little bit more of an increased water level across the board. Of course, so heading into the second half of the week, we start to see a little bit more activity working its way into our western valleys. We'll track out exactly what this could mean as we head into the weekend coming up in that full forecast.
All right, thanks for the updates, Briana. Well, people that are expecting FEMA relief money following devastating floods back in March can toss the applications. Federal government has denied Governor Tina Kotek's major disaster declaration request for individual assistance. That's for residents in Coos, Curry, and Douglas counties. Said the federal government providing funds to public entities like the city, county governments, tribal governments, some nonprofits as well. FEMA has also denied a request by the governor to make the hazard mitigation grant program available, not just in those counties, but statewide as well. Meanwhile, with some expressing privacy concerns since automatic license plate reading cameras, also known as flock cameras, were installed in Eugene. Eugene Police Department now telling us the primary purpose for the cameras is to be used as an investigative tool for the department when searching for suspects with active warrants. Now, the process here is simple. When the vehicle of a suspect that EPD is looking for travels past a camera, the department is alerted, allowing police to narrow down the suspect's whereabouts. EPD saying that the cameras themselves have no facial recognition capabilities, only capturing images of vehicles and license plates. Some residents, though, expressing privacy concerns over those cameras, though EPD says it only uses them when it's conducting their own investigations.
One of the main concerns right now is immigration. There's rules in the state of Oregon, it's the sanctuary laws that prohibit the use of any technology for the purpose of immigration, deportation issues. There's also concerns about reproductive health care. There's no laws in the state of Oregon surrounding reproductive health care, and so it's not something that police officers would use the information for anyways.
Well, EPD does say that information from those flock cameras goes to agencies outside of Oregon. Information stored for 30 days before being deleted. After being installed in July, the cameras have been used to find multiple felony suspects and recover stolen vehicles. Currently 57 of those cameras that are currently up around the city, with more still planned to come. Meanwhile, over in Springfield, for those who would like to have their voice heard about the planned introduction of those cameras, there's a police advisory committee meeting that's scheduled for next Thursday. That's August the 7th. Agenda for that meeting will be released on Monday. The agenda, along with registration information, that's all available at the City of Springfield's website. Again, Springfield Police Advisory Committee meeting scheduled for next Thursday. That'll be starting at 6 p.m. Meanwhile, developing here this afternoon in downtown Eugene, a gas leak that prompted evacuations at the intersection of East Broadway and Oak Street. We've got a map of the area that we're talking about right now. This is essentially smack dab in the middle of downtown Eugene, 101 East Broadway. The gas leak itself, though, was impacting some traffic in the area. According to our team near the scene, though, evacuations have now been resolved at this point. People now returning to work, and it looks like any of those traffic issues really have been cleaned up as well, though we will continue to bring you updates on this developing situation.